The wind blew hot and dry across the endless red sand. Jake pulled his scarf over his mouth as dust stung his face. He looked at the alien girl walking beside him. She didn't speak much, not since they met, but her eyes were bright and full of secrets, and today, those secrets were leading them far from her village, far into the desert where no one dared to go. "Are you sure this is the place?" Jake asked, his voice muffled. The girl nodded slowly, her dark hair whipping in the wind. She raised her arm and pointed. At first, he saw nothing, just more dunes and rocks. Then he saw it, a massive stone shape, mostly buried beneath the sand, a pyramid, ancient and cracked, with alien markings along its base. Jake took a step closer, then stopped. "Why did you bring me here?" he asked. The girl didn't answer right away. She looked nervous, her fingers tightening around the small pendant on her neck. "No one goes here," she said quietly. "It's cursed." "Then why are we here?" Jake asked again. "Because it calls to you," she whispered. "It doesn't speak to us. Only to you." Jake felt a chill run down his back. The sun was hot, but the air around the pyramid felt cold. He stepped forward, brushing away sand from the base of the structure. Symbols glowed faintly under his touch. His heart beat faster. The girl stood behind him, watching carefully. Jake ran his fingers along the stone, following the markings. Then his hand stopped on a strange shape, a circle inside a triangle. As soon as his skin touched it, the ground rumbled. The girl screamed and stepped back. The air filled with a low humming sound. Dust fell from the cracks in the stone. Then slowly, a line appeared in the side of the pyramid. The line widened, revealing a hidden door. Stone grinding against stone echoed all around them. Jake and the girl stood frozen. The pyramid had opened, because of his touch. "Did you know this would happen?" Jake asked, looking at her. The girl shook her head quickly, her eyes wide. "I didn't think it was real," she said. "It was just a story, a warning." Jake turned back to the open entrance. A dark tunnel led into the heart of the ancient structure. Cool air rushed out of it, smelling like dust and time. Without speaking, Jake stepped forward. He felt pulled, like something inside was waiting for him. The girl grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said. "You don't know what's in there." "I have to find out," Jake said, his voice calm but firm. "This pyramid was buried for a reason," she whispered. "They sealed it." Jake looked into the dark tunnel and said, "Then maybe I'm here to open it." They entered together, their footsteps soft on the old stone floor. The walls inside were covered in strange carvings. Some looked like stars, others like machines. The air grew colder as they walked. A glowing line of light followed them along the walls. It moved when they moved, like it was watching them. "What is this place?" Jake whispered. The girl shook her head again. "My people forgot long ago." They walked deeper until they reached a round chamber. In the center was a tall stone table with something resting on top, a round disc, covered in markings similar to the ones outside. Jake stepped forward to examine it. The disc began to glow softly. The girl gasped and stepped back again. "You shouldn't touch anything else," she said, her voice shaking. "It's reacting to me," Jake said. "It's not dangerous," but he wasn't so sure. The glow from the disc spread to the walls. Suddenly, the carvings moved. They shifted like they were alive. One of them showed a human figure standing beside an alien queen. Another showed a door opening to stars, and one showed a figure falling into darkness. Chained and alone, Jake stepped back slowly. "This isn't just a tomb," he said. "It's something else." Before he could speak more, the ground shook again. A new doorway opened behind the stone table. The girl stared in shock. "No one has ever seen that door." "Then we're the first," Jake said. He turned to her and said, "Are you with me?" She hesitated, then nodded. Together, they walked toward the new door, whatever waited inside. They had already crossed a line. There was no going back now, and deep inside the pyramid, something had awakened. Something that remembered him. Something that had been waiting a long time. The second door opened with a cold breath of air. Jake felt it against his skin, like fingers brushing his face. He looked at the alien girl, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. Her hands were shaking, and her steps slowed the deeper they went. Behind them, the first door had already sealed shut. There was no light inside the new passage, but still, they walked. Jake used his small flashlight, but even that seemed too weak. The walls were darker now, less stone and more metal. He could hear a low hum coming from somewhere below them, a strange sound, like a machine breathing. This part wasn't in the legends. The girl whispered. Jake kept his eyes forward. Then we're in new history now. The tunnel curved downward, like a spiral into the earth. They passed symbols that were nothing like the ones before, sharper, more violent, etched deep, as if scratched by claws. Jake felt something else too, a pressure building in the air, like the pyramid was alive and waking up. He tried not to let fear show on his face, but the girl noticed. Something is watching, she said softly. Then, ahead of them, a flicker of light appeared. Not from his flashlight. This light moved on its own. It hovered near the wall, then floated across the tunnel. Jake stepped forward to follow it, but the girl grabbed his arm. Don't, she said. That's not light. It's memory. Before he could ask what she meant, the light shot into the wall, and suddenly, the stone around them changed. It became clear like glass, and scenes began to show. He saw images of tall alien figures in armor. They were building something guarding it. Then came war, fire, screams, strange weapons, and falling ships. The pyramid was at the center of it all. The glass faded, and the wall returned to cold stone. Jake turned slowly. The girl's eyes filled with tears. This place was not made to honor the past, she said. It was made to hide it. They moved again, deeper into the structure. The tunnel opened into a chamber with no ceiling. It stretched upward into endless dark. In the middle stood a giant column of light, spinning slowly. Jake stepped toward it, and it reacted, glowing brighter, faster. Then a voice echoed through the chamber, not in sound but in their minds. Human detected, it said. Trial will begin. The light pulsed, and the floor beneath them shifted. Stone panels moved away, forming a circle around them. Jake looked down. Beneath the floor was a void, dark, bottomless, and full of whispers. The girl screamed as one of the floor pieces fell into the black. Step back, she cried, but Jake stood still. More panels began to fall, but only around him. He stood on one final piece, hovering over the pit. Then a beam of light shot down from above and covered him. He could not move. Answer, the voice demanded. Why did you come? Jake's lips moved, though he didn't understand why. I was called, he said. I followed the signs. The voice paused, then spoke again. Do you seek power or truth? Jake's throat felt dry. Truth, he answered. The column spun faster, and the light burned white. Then face it, the voice said. The light vanished, the floor returned, and Jake collapsed. The girl ran to him, helping him sit up. He looked at her, dazed. Did you hear it too? She shook her head. No. Only you. Jake felt something in his pocket, something cold, round. He pulled it out, and his heart skipped. It was the same disc he had seen on the table above, but now it was glowing, and symbols were moving. On its surface, the girl stepped back, shocked. That's a key, she said. A key to the last door. What door? Jake asked. She pointed to the far wall where no opening had been before. Now, there was a new crack forming in the stone. A final door, waiting, pulsing and waking, and deep behind that door, something ancient stirred, something that remembered. The wars, the lies, and the betrayal, something that knew Jake's face before he was even born. The air turned heavy as the final door opened. With a slow, deep groan, Jake stood frozen, the glowing disc still warm in his hand. The alien girl took a step behind him, her eyes wide with fear. A strange smell poured from the opening old metal. Burning dust and something else, something like forgotten memories. The walls inside were darker than the rest, Not carved or painted, but alive. They moved ever so slightly. Like breathing skin beneath stone. Jake stepped in first, even though his legs shook. He didn't know what was waiting, but something deep inside told him he had to see. The chamber was round and silent, but as soon as they entered, the walls began to glow with pale blue light, not all at once like soft sparks jumping from one memory to another. Then the floor beneath them turned to glass, and what lay below was not ground, but a sea of stars. Jake gasped and stepped back, but the alien girl held his arm. "Don't look away," she whispered. "It's showing you the past, below them." Shapes formed in the starfield, not just stars, but scenes, flickers of ancient events. Jake saw a human man standing beside an alien woman who looked like royalty. They were holding hands in front of a great crowd of aliens. Then another image. Flashed warships falling from the sky, explosions, screams, and that same alien queen chained to a wall. Her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered one word, "Human." Jake fell to his knees, the images cutting into his mind. He saw a planet burn, a sky crack open, and something vast crawling through space. He heard voices not meant for any living thing, and one of them, cold and cruel, said his name. "Jackal Arrows," it whispered, though no one had ever called him that before. The alien girl dropped beside him. "Are you okay?" Jake looked at her, sweat dripping from his face. "I think this place knows me." The lights faded, the glass turned back to stone, but the memory remained sharp in Jake's head. He stood up slowly, breathing hard. In front of them, another shape began to rise from the floor. A statue, or so they thought, of a tall, armored figure, but its eyes lit up red, and it turned its head toward Jake. Then it spoke in a voice made of wind and metal. "You have returned," it said. "After so many lifetimes you return." Jake stepped back. "What are you?" "I am the Keeper," it replied. "I guard the record of betrayal." "What betrayal?" Jake asked, his voice shaking. The Keeper looked at the alien girl, then back to him. "You were the key to peace," it said, "but you chose destruction." "That wasn't me," Jake said. "I just got here." The Keeper's voice rumbled. "Time moves like a circle in this place." "Then tell me the truth," Jake said, stepping forward. "I want to know what really happened." The Keeper raised a hand, and light poured from the walls again. This time, only one memory appeared, clear and slow. It showed a council chamber filled with alien leaders, and in the center, a young human man arguing with them. Beside him stood a girl, an alien girl, who looked just like the one beside Jake now. Not similar, exactly the same. Jake turned to her, but she looked just as surprised as him. "That's not possible," she said. That can't be me." But the truth hung heavy in the air. Jake watched as the human in the memory raised his hand. He held the same glowing disc that Jake now carried. He placed it into a large door at the back of the chamber, and from behind that door came darkness, not shadows, not weapons, but a living storm. It consumed the chamber, the leaders, the light, everything. And the last thing they saw was the alien girl reaching for him as the world ended. Jake dropped the disc on the floor. It pulsed once, then dimmed. "I did this?" he whispered. "I destroyed everything?" The Keeper nodded slowly. "Not you, but the one before you. You carry his blood, his face, his choices. But why show me this now?" Jake asked. "Because," the Keeper said, "the door is opening again." From the far side of the chamber, a low vibration began to rise. Stone cracked, metal groaned, and a new shape began to form. A door unlike the others, black, smooth, humming with power. Behind it, something old had started to stir. Something that once came through and ended an empire. And now it had smelled the human's presence again. It was waking up. And it remembered exactly what he had done. The chamber began to shake. Not like before, not like the soft rumble of old stones. This was something deeper, something alive. The black door at the end of the room pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, steady, and growing louder with every second. Jake backed away, but the air around him felt thick. It was hard to move, hard to breathe, like the room itself wanted him to stay. The alien girl pulled at his arm, panic in her eyes. "We need to leave," she said. "Now." But the keeper did not move. "You opened it," it said. "Now you must face what comes through." "I didn't mean to," Jake shouted. "I didn't know what it was. Ignorance is not a shield." The keeper replied. Then the black door opened, not fast, not slow like it had all the time in the world. From the darkness came a sound that didn't belong in this universe. It wasn't a growl or a whisper. It was a memory. A scream from long ago, replayed through time. Jake dropped to his knees, holding his head, his mind filled with images he couldn't control. A burning sky, towers falling, children running, and the sound of something laughing. The alien girl knelt beside him, holding his face. "Jake, listen to me," she said. "You're not him. You're not the one who did this." He opened his eyes, and they were glowing faintly. "I feel what he felt," he said. "It's like he's inside me." "You have to fight it," she said. "If you don't, this place will take you too." Then, something stepped through the black door. It wasn't a creature, not exactly. It had no face, no body, just shape and shadow. A moving cloud of hate and hunger. The lights in the chamber flickered and died. Only the glow of the disc in Jake's hand remained. The keeper spoke once more, its voice weaker now. "The guardian comes," it said. "Born from the sins of the past." Jake stood up, though his legs trembled. "What does it want?" he asked. "It wants balance," the keeper said. "You tipped the scale once, and now it returns to finish what was started." The shadow creature moved slowly, almost calmly. But every step it took drained the color from the room. Stone turned to ash, air turned to dust. The alien girl raised her pendant, and a barrier of light formed between them and the shadow. It screamed, a horrible, hollow sound as it touched the barrier. Jake looked at her in shock. How did you do that?" "I don't know," she said. "My mother gave this to me before she vanished." The shadow circled them, testing the edges of the light, but it was not strong enough to break through yet. Jake felt the disc heat up in his hand again. Symbols moved fast across its surface. He held it toward the barrier, and a beam of light shot forward. The shadow hissed and pulled back, but not for long. "We can't stay here," the girl said. "This is only the beginning," Jake nodded. "We need to find the next door." She looked around, but the chamber had no more exits, just stone walls, flickering light, and the thing trying to break. Then, Jake noticed something new. The disc was pointing, like a compass turning in his hand. He followed its direction, pressing his free hand against the wall. It sank in slightly, and a soft click echoed in the chamber. The wall split open to reveal a narrow tunnel. Not grand like the others, not meant for many, just for two. Without a word they ran. Behind them, the barrier shattered. The creature screamed again and followed, but slower this time. The tunnel bent and twisted, the ceiling low and wet. The lights were gone now, only the glow of the disc led their way. They didn't stop until the sound faded behind them, until the stone beneath their feet began to feel warm, not burning but alive. They entered a small room with a silver arch. Standing in the center, the girl gasped. "This is the gate." Jake looked at it, heart pounding. "The gate to what?" "To the place no one remembers," she said. "Where it all began." Behind them, the shadow was coming again. And in front of them, the silver gate started to glow. It was asking for something, for a choice. Jake looked at the girl. "We step through together," she nodded. "Always." And as they stepped into the light, the pyramid shifted again, groaning deep below the surface. The past was not done with them, and the future had already started changing. The silver gate did not feel like metal when they stepped through it. It felt like water, like falling through memory. Jake saw flashes around him, stars being born, cities rising, then crumbling to dust. He reached for the alien girl's hand, and for a moment he felt nothing but cold. Then his feet touched solid ground. They were standing in a wide circular chamber with walls that shimmered like glass. Above them, a ceiling showed a sky full of moving stars. But they weren't stars. They were recordings, moments in time, playing on an endless loop. The girl held her pendant close, her breathing quick and sharp. "This place isn't part of the pyramid," she said. "It's outside time." Jake walked slowly, his boots echoing against the smooth floor. Everything felt too quiet, too perfect. Then a voice called out, not from the walls or air, but from inside his mind. "You have reached the core," it said. "State your purpose." Jake looked around, unsure who to answer. "I don't know," he replied. "I'm just trying to fix what was broken." The voice paused, then responded, "Then you must face the trial of truth." Before he could ask what that meant, the floor beneath him lit up in a perfect circle. The girl stepped forward, but a clear wall appeared between them. Jake was alone inside the circle, trapped. "No," she cried, slamming her hands on the barrier. "I'll be okay," Jake said, though he didn't believe it. The chamber darkened, and 3 tall figures appeared around him, not alive, not ghosts, something in between. They wore ancient armor, their faces hidden behind glass masks. "You are the echo," the middle figure said. "You carry the soul of the betrayer." Jake took a deep breath. "Then let me fix what he broke." The second figure raised a long staff made of light. "If you truly seek to repair the past," it said, "then speak the truth, no one else will." A beam shot from the staff and struck Jake in the chest. He gasped, and his mind was thrown backward. He stood in a throne room, but not his own. It was full of alien leaders, and at the center, the alien queen, the one from the visions, and beside her stood him, or someone who looked just like him, but this other version wore black armor, and his eyes were cold. They argued about the gate, about using it to end a war. The queen begged him to wait, to talk, to choose peace, but he activated the gate. Anyway, a shadow poured out from the rift, same as the one hunting Jake now. It devoured everything, starting with the queen. She didn't scream, she looked betrayed. Jake cried out and fell to his knees. Back in the trial chamber, the figures stepped closer. "Do you still want to carry this truth?" Jake nodded, tears on his face. "Yes," he said, "because hiding it brought only pain." The circle under him stopped glowing, and the barrier dropped. The alien girl ran to him and held him tightly. "I saw it," he said. "He didn't do it by accident. He made a choice. And now," she whispered, "you must make a different one." The core shimmered and began to shift again. A final doorway appeared, made of light and gold. It pulsed gently, waiting. "Behind that door," the voice said, "is the chamber of balance." Jake stood, still shaking but ready. "If we go in," he asked, "what happens to the shadow?" "It follows," the voice said. "It always follows those who open the first gate." The alien girl stepped beside him. "Then we face it together," she said. And without another word, they walked toward the final test. Their footsteps echoed like thunder in a silent storm. Behind them, the core sealed itself. Ahead of them, the final chapter waited to be written. Asterisk. The golden door opened without a sound, but the silence itself was sharp, like a warning whispered through still air. Jake and the alien girl stepped through together. What they saw on the other side didn't look like a room. It looked like a sky wide, endless, and glowing with floating islands of stone. Between the islands hung rivers of light and black mist. It felt like a dream, but the fear in Jake's chest told him it was real. A narrow path rose in front of them, twisting like a staircase without walls. The stones under their feet shimmered with memory. Each step they took replayed in echo flashes of the past. One showed Jake's own face twisted with anger, standing above a battlefield. Another showed the alien girl as a child, reaching for someone fading into smoke. She paused, watching that moment, but said nothing. Jake wanted to ask, but the path kept pulling them forward. In the center of this strange space floated a platform of gold and obsidian. There stood a Figure unlike any they had seen. It wore a robe made of flowing data, numbers and stars moving like fabric. But its face was hidden behind a mirror that reflected only the one who looked at it. Jake stared at the figure and saw not himself, but the one before him, the betrayer. His hands curled into fists. He stepped forward. "Are you the one behind the shadows?" The mirror-faced being raised its hand. "Everything behind you is consequence," it said. "What stands before you is choice." Then the sky around them cracked, and from above, the shadow returned. It fell like a storm, screaming through time itself. The floating island shook, light dimmed, and pieces of memory shattered like glass. Jake pulled the disc from his pocket. It pulsed hard. Burning with heat, the alien girl raised her pendant, and both lights connected in the air. A dome of energy formed around them as the shadow slammed against it. The figure spoke again. "This is the chamber of balance. Inside it, your final act will echo forever." Jake shouted through the storm. "How do I stop it?" The mirror turned toward him. "Not by strength, not by power. You stop it by letting go." Jake didn't understand at first, but then he looked at the girl beside him. She had stood with him, fought with him, believed in him. Though he carried the face of the one who destroyed her past. He took her hand, and the shadow hissed louder. It hated their connection, their trust. Jake held the disc high and said, "I am not him. I will not run. I will not command. I will give what he never could myself." The disc began to change. It unraveled in his hand like golden thread. Jake looked at the girl one last time. "Tell them we tried." Before she could stop him, he stepped forward and pushed the light thread into the shadow. A sound erupted, not loud, but final, like the last breath of a long-forgotten world. The shadow didn't vanish, it folded, twisted, and then collapsed into light. The wind stopped, the sky calmed. The storm was over. Jake's body sank to the floor of the platform, eyes closed, but he was smiling. The alien girl dropped beside him, holding him close. "Please," she whispered, "don't go." The mirror figure stepped forward, light bending around it. "You have done what he never did," it said. "You chose sacrifice over power." Then it touched Jake's forehead, and a pulse of light spread across the entire chamber. The floating islands returned, brighter than before. The rivers of mist turned clear, flowing like water under stars, and Jake breathed again. He opened his eyes, weak but alive. The girl laughed through tears. "You're impossible," Jake grinned. "I get that a lot." Far below, the pyramid shook one last time, and deep within its walls, a gate closed forever. The past had been faced, the future had been changed, but there was still one final truth waiting at the edge of it all. The wind on the surface of the desert was different now. It carried warmth, not heat, and the sand felt softer beneath their feet. Jake and the alien girl stood at the top of the pyramid. The door behind them had sealed shut, forever silent. No light came from it now, no sound, no whispers from the past, only quiet peace. Like the pyramid was finally sleeping. The sky above was clear, and stars blinked gently in the early night. They had returned from the chamber of balance only minutes ago, but it felt like a lifetime had passed between those stone walls. Jake touched his chest where the disc used to be. It was gone, melted into light, but he still felt something inside him. Not power, not pain, just calm. The alien girl sat beside him on a stone ledge. Her pendant was still glowing, though faint. "It's strange," she said softly. "All my life I thought the pyramid was a curse." Jake smiled gently. "And now?" "Now I think it was waiting," she said. "Waiting for someone who would choose not to rule." They looked at the stars in silence. Far in the distance, lights from her village flickered like tiny fireflies. Soon they would return there, and the elders would ask what happened. She would have to explain the truth, the past, the shadow, the sacrifice. Jake would stand beside her, even if they feared him, even if they didn't believe. "They might not accept me," Jake said. "They'll still see the betrayer in my face. Then let them see who stood by me." She replied, Not the one who caused the fall, but the one who saved us all. The stars above shifted slowly. One of them glowed brighter for just a moment. Jake pointed to it. "Do you think they're watching?" She looked up and nodded. "I think they always have been." Suddenly, the ground beneath them pulsed softly, just once. A gentle heartbeat from the pyramid. Not dangerous, not angry, more like a farewell. Jake stood up and turned to face it. One last time, he placed his hand on the stone surface. "Thank you," he whispered. "For letting me try again." The girl joined him, resting her hand beside his. Two souls, one born from the past. One meant to shape the future, side by side at the edge of history, and far beneath their feet. Hidden deep in the pyramid's heart, a light glowed quietly, not as a weapon, not as a warning, but as a seed. Something ancient had ended, and something new had begun. They walked away together, leaving no footprints behind. The sand covered everything gently, like the world itself had decided to protect the secret they now carried. A human and an alien, tied by fate, history, and choice. Not chosen by destiny, but shaped by their own hands. The desert stretched far in every direction, but they didn't feel lost for the first time. They knew exactly where they were going, not because of a map or a glowing disc, but because they had each other, and that was enough.